Well, yeah, sorry for that, especially now coming as the last talk for the panel. It was not meant this way, but well, we thought it was a nice title, and it sort of evolved. It was not quite that. It became it just before starting to present it. Yeah. So what is this about? I hope this is kind of visible. It's not about Tutankhamun, or whatever you pronounce this guy from Egypt. That's his coffin. It's also not about Lake 3. But it's going to have some relation to it, and yeah, it evolved out of it in some sense. It's about an exercise in the TeXbook, which I will look at a little bit further, a lot of examples to it. That gets us to a different kind of coffin. And when we arrive at this point, these kind of coffins have handles, and we have some poles to carry them around. Hello. Okay. And when we have all this machinery around, I will take one of the examples and just redo it. And, well, then the last question is it exciting and why? Or is it just me that thinks it is any good? It's quite interesting that all those kind of things kind of fit together with what we had this morning and also in the afternoon. Maybe some of those thoughts also sort of come together at the same century, if you like. Last thing, outlook. Okay, here's the exercise directly out of the TeXbook source, which in this way I'm allowed to use, I think. So you see the tech backslashes and so on. Yeah, you can read that for yourself. Why have TeXboxes only one reference point? And it's a double dangerous band, I think, or maybe a one dangerous band exercise, so it's not trivial to answer, and Don gives the following answer. There are no good usages for having indices symmetrical. That's one thing in the English or Latin languages. And he goes on. He had a certain kind of cap on at the time. Today he has no cap on, so we will see what he thinks about it these days. And then he says at the end, time will tell. Now, I'm not going to actually discuss that, but I will look at it a little bit about what can be done, or could be done if we had something else than a single reference point. Just to discuss the language things, people who have been to conferences in the past, tech conferences I mean, probably all know Yannis Haralambos, and he was talking quite a lot about just a single reference point to characters. And languages like Khmer and so on, they didn't work very well with this concept, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm thinking more about Latin-based design stuff, and here are two examples. That's from the Latin Companion, a chapter opening, and to the right there's some basically random title of a book. I don't know how well you can see this, but the question is, if you think about this design, how would you describe those kind of things? What would be the way you would explain to somebody else what's the importance of this design, what makes it unique, what is sort of the structural thing? And let's have a look. That's the Latin Companion. First of all, we have typically baseline to baseline spacing, so something we are not really very much accustomed to if we are working with tech. But despite this, we have the main title being slightly shifted to the right here, so that's the vertical axis, and if we describe this, we would say this goes out, right? And then the next thing is, it is space here, might be fixed to the first line. So if we have a single line of chapter open, the distance from here to here would stay the same compared to when we have two lines. So this distance we have to put in here depends on potentially on what the amount of text is that comes along. So that's not necessarily, if you try to describe this, a very easy thing to describe. So this is even better. You first have something like a center title. That's okay. The next thing is you have a subtitle, let's see it, which is flush left to the center title, right? And then as the next topic you have the publisher, Duke University, I guess you can't read this, here, down here, which is aligned here. It's all not very difficult if you think about building that in tech, right? It gets a bit more complicated if you look at what happens here. This is centered between the left line here and the left line to this text. So this goes out in both directions. Now, if this is the design, think about it how you would implement that in something like tech. Would it resemble what I just explained? Probably not. It would probably go like we have Cartesian coordinates. There's some point here, and we go up and right and left and back and forth. And if then somebody comes along and says, but I want a different font, suddenly everything goes out of order and you start remeasuring, right? Because that would not be the way I just explained how it is built, what the essence actually is. Okay. Oh yeah, forgot that. Again, baseline to baseline spacing as part of the specification is going on. Another one. Okay, not mainstream. I agree. I guess, except for Hans, not many of us do this kind of thing. But leave aside, how would you describe it? And then, if you think about it, how would you implement it? Any relation? Well, I doubt it, to be honest. That's the way I would describe it roughly. You have this line here with the poets, and the in Paris aligns with this one, and this goes up here with a bit of spacing, and then the circle thing is basically smack center here on those four blocks, and then you have this 45-degree text down here. Well, roughly. So, what's an actual design description? Well, first of all, the whole time I was talking about relation of objects. I wasn't talking coordinates. This is a line at this point, maybe with an offset, something like that. But it is a relation between the objects. And, well, I usually use some kind of natural attributes of the object. Something like the left upper corner or center or something like that. So relation to the object are those kind of things that I use for description. That is sort of typically the essence. Doesn't mean that you don't have hardwired coordinates in such a design, but it's not the main thing. That's my point here. Last example. That's from 1925, a chiseled work where title page of a newspaper journal called Elementary Typography, and well, have a look at it. Describe the design for yourself as far as you can. You don't actually need to have the text, but look at it. Well, what are the elements and how are they related to each other? I'm not going to ask you to do it in tech, but here is sort of the graphical answer to it. There's a lot of things going on, like, for example, this block here is aligned to this text and to this text. It just gets sort of in this corner. Or this text here is then aligned to the end of this text and coming from Don Knuth. Here, the other text, and various other things. I mean, you can go into detail if you want to, and it's quite beautiful, actually. Yeah, so what does it have to do with coffins? For this short story, history, basically, sometime last century, there was a conference in I can't remember really, somewhere in the UK, and we were walking through the village there in the afternoon, and there this kind of idea was born that actually what you want to have is a box with a lot of handles where you can grab things. And the mental picture back then was coffins. Now, maybe that wasn't quite a nice picture, but that came sort of up at that point in time, and actually it got implemented, and then the implementation got more or less sort of put aside, forgotten and everything, because there was then the stuff where we started to work on template ideas and those kind of things. So it basically vanished again. And end of last year, I was starting to try and build templates for labeling 3 for headings and table and flows and those kind of things. And it just didn't quite fit. I didn't find anything to describe sensibly or offer a description interface how those things and headings should relate to each other. And that was when I came back to books. There was something last century. And well, so that brought the coffins back. I redid the implementation from then, added some stuff, and now they're actually working, and for my end I'm quite pleased with it. So that's a coffin from the 19th century, or so it's more than 1 century ago. You see all the handles like here, and the poles, which are basically sticks, where you sort of go through the thing to lift it more easily. That's the second concept. So what's this? That's tech. Reference point, this smudge here, don't think you can see it, but there's the reference point. That's the only handle we have. And this funny black thing is just to make sure that I do have a depth in my example. So the last line is not on the bottom, basically. Okay? So what is the coffin in contrast? It looks like this. Same text, a lot of poles. Left, a right one, a top, then top of the first line, a center, a vertical center, baseline, and the bottom line. So we get a bunch of natural poles that automatically sit there, and each intersection gives you a handle, which you can use, attach to, grab. And what can we do? Well, we can build this thing. That's the first thing we had to do. We can make new ones. We can add such poles to the already existing default ones, like 2/3 of the vertically, horizontally there, we have added another pole, which is 2/3 down the line, something like this. That's that kind of operation. You can reposition them, like this one goes up. Maybe you just saw it from here, it's down there. I moved it up by 10 points. You can rotate the thing, and the important part is the poles and the handles rotate with it. That's a more natural way to think about it. I mean, okay, now the top is here, but if you're working with text and stuff, and I rotate this by 90 degrees, then it's more natural to think about, here's the text on the top left is here, rather than sort of thinking about it in absolutely. My opinion. Okay, it wouldn't be necessary. And last but not least, we can actually typeset the stuff. We can move it somewhere and place it. And again, we can use the handles to help with the movement. That's single coffins. Several coffins. We can align the stuff to coffins, and that gives us these kind of things. Basically, we align at this point, which is bottom right, and for the poets we take top left, and we say align with 2-point separation or something, or with no separation. And then we align the in paras, top right of in paras with this this coffin top right. Those kind of ideas. And the second thing we currently can do is we can manage the resulting bounding box. The picture here shows some gray background. That's actually the bounding box of the whole resulting picture, because those were attached without actually changing the bounding box. But that's kind of detail for what you want to do later on. Okay, so having this kind of machinery, here is the original from 75, no, 85 years ago. Let's try to do it in 10. That's the content you need to somehow manage. A bunch of rules. You may not be able to read from the back, but anyway, this is right now very crude. It's basically a coffin, an S box in latex terms, which has some rule in it with a certain color and a certain size. I mean, this needed movement. Anyway, those 3 rules. Then we have horizontal coffins that are like S boxes. There's a font size, family position, and then the word Mitteilung. So that gives us this box here. The same here with typographische, there's a second box, and so on and so forth. So those are here. And then I have 2 more, which are vertical coffins. The one here is elementare typography, and the one here is all the authors. And those are the ingredients to build it. Now we build this one. Basically, we start with aligning box A, which was the word Mitteilung, with an empty coffin. That's a technicality right now for doing this, so we can ignore that for the moment. Basically, more interesting is what does align coffins in general do? It basically takes 2 boxes, takes a handle on each box, which is optional. If you don't specify it, it takes the checkbox, the corner of the baseline. And you have some offset, which is also optional. So aligning now the word Mitteilung with the first rule on top, this one, basically we take inside the result box, we take box A, the top, this was box A, the top, and the right, so this is this corner here. And we attach the rule at bottom right, which is from the rule this point, and we use an offset of 2 mm vertically. Same thing for the next 2 blocks. This is the box B, we rotate it by 90 degrees. Then we take it, we use this time the handle box A bottom with box A left, which is here, this way. And box B, which is the word typography, bottom right, 2 points, and that gets us here, this thing. And then the last one is going the same way. We rotate the rule by 90 degrees and attaches basically at this point. Mechanism is fairly easy then, going on like this. This is attaching this part. We rotate by 270. We go from basically this point up here to this point. That's why we have 14 pickers vertically and 66 points to the right. This one is interesting because of the problem that we actually have to use the coal from here with the coal from this side. So what you see here is we take from the resulting box that we have, which is currently this bit here, this is already built. We take bottom left of box B. Box B was the word typographische. So this is this hole. Box B left, sorry, this is this hole. And box C, we take the bottom, which is this hole here, and the corner, the handle will then be at this point. And with this point, we attach this coffin at the top right. So this top right of this coffin is attached at this point, and then we get exactly that what we want to have. This is just showing the handle. This is adding this nice little block here, copying handle. The last things to do is adding this black rule, which is working in the same fashion, and then again with two different poles, adding this block coming up here, and finally adding the word on the heft, and we're done. So, not too difficult actually to get this design right. This is now done in TeX, what you see on the right. It is a bit different because I didn't try to get the figures completely right, but yeah, looks close, right? So why is it here? Sorry?
Do we compare the two? Can we compare the two?
Yeah, compare the two. Not directly side by side, I can move back. This is the TeX version. This is what's most. Here's the original. The only problem is now I better go out of this one, right? How do I go back to? No. Oops. I shouldn't have done this. There we go. Okay. So why do I think it is exciting? Well, essentially because I think it is as far as most typesetting systems, or all that I know, and the way in the TeX world we think about those kind of things, the first time to think about it was really with relations, and not with hardware coordinates like in picture environments and similar kind of things. Of course, you need coordinates as well, but absolute position as sort of the basis of design means you first have to force everything into its final form, and then you basically measure, but the measurements have nothing to do with the essence of the design. Of course, there are a lot of relations. I mean, something like what you do in metaphors is quite similar. Some of the other ideas, so it's nothing that I would claim is extremely new or so, but it actually allows to think about stuff differently. And yeah, what's next? Basically, a bit of extension, some ideas around that we found useful to add, which are not yet there. Final syntax. This is currently just basically proof of concept. Maybe a suggestion for better names. Come up. One thing that came up was crest. So it's sort of the positive idea of it. You have one?
All of this exists already in XYP. It has done for 30 years.
Not in the combination. I agree with you. A lot of that exists in a certain fashion in XYP. But there it is much more oriented towards matrix.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's only one fraction of what XYP is concerned with. All of this stuff is actually there if you look at the kernel.
Okay.
The kernel is constructed.
So, but more you just, I give you the source of the tissues, you just do it also in 10 lines? No, it would be interesting. You might be perfectly right. The point really that I'm making is not that this as such is great, but it is just that we failed so far to actually use these kind of things because that's the natural way to think about these kind of designs, in my opinion. Because that allows me to actually not being forced to take into consideration that this font has 12 points instead of 11 or something, because that changes all my coordinates again. Okay, so this is definitely going to change, I guess. And then what I want to do is to actually apply that in real life on the template idea so that you can do this. And that brings me to the end. Questions? Comments?
What you're doing pretty much sounds like constraint-based programming, right? You might want an even easier way to describe the stuff would be to specify in a declarative fashion all the constraints that you want on the objects and boxes. Have you looked into that?
You're quite right. That would be potentially a way to evolve these kind of things in a better fashion. Yeah.
I'm not suggesting writing a constraint solver in TeX.
No.
You will anyway.
Yeah.
Is this somewhere available on CTAN or something?
It is all available except for the Chichon source, which I have only on my computers. But the whole thing is in the experimental tree of the latex 3 kernel under something called X packages, X coffins. And yeah, it runs. It's not paperware, even if it's done in PowerPoint. Sorry. The pictures were all done in TeX.
Not on C10 yet, though.
It is, sorry, C10 probably, I'm not quite sure when the latest version, but it is definitely through the project website and then on the SPN.
You plan to add clues to coffin positions. Do you have any plans to add some stretchability to coffins themselves? So I can say, okay, you slightly extend this coffin so it will be exactly here or there. It will be. Is it possible? And do you plan to do this? Like flexible coffins.
You mean in case the guy isn't dead after all?
Zombie.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It is maybe an interesting idea to look at. But one of the things that I learned when I was playing with it is keep it simple. I mean, the essence stuff is really the ability to nicely sort of align those kind of things and speak about something like this float as its caption somewhere at the bottom with a certain offset, or this heading is related to this ornament in some way. If you start up to do a full-fledged programming level of diagrams, you come back to the stuff that you actually do not want to solve. And then you have a lot of functionality available, but probably more than making the thing very usefully. I mean, I'm speculating, but I started to make things simpler. For example, specifying poles and handles. In contrast to the talk this morning, the way things are built together is after that you have the handle of the inner coffins available to you, but just without sort of specifying the order. So I went away. If you put a coffin twice into another thing, then you only have the handles of the last one. That's a restriction, but the usefulness is I don't have to worry about the order I sort of attach things to. So if I add something to my overall picture, it still stays. Everything stays the same. So, yeah, I'm going for simplicity here, and I'm not sure that making coffins sort of stretch is easily to grasp. But maybe it is.
You can stretch rules, so. Okay, thank you.
You may have answered my question by your last remarks, but I'm going to ask it again. Could you combine this idea with your coffins and your handles and poles with the idea of quantizing the space also? Would there be any conflict between them?
You mean grid type processing?
Yes.
Actually, yes. I think that falls kind of naturally in the whole domain that you're trying to solve here. So yes, there would be value in sort of thinking about the ability to have an underlying grid that you can easily address, which in some sense is nothing else than a big canvas with a lot of poles already that are in regular distances to each other, which you can use to sort of decide on intersections of those poles, which are then used to attach stuff to it. So in some sense, the idea would naturally fit. I would probably think then about something like a specifiable grid that gives you sort of those background handles that you can attach stuff to.
It seems like a lot of what you're talking about is similar to stuff that MetaPost already does. Is there any thought to combine them or shift the responsibility more to MetaPost and make the title page in MetaPost and the rest of it somewhere else or something?
No. I'm quite aware about that situation, in contrast to being aware that it's also an XYPIC, which I should have been probably. But anyway. As far as the MetaPost stuff is concerned, I think the focus is different. And what I want to have is a single language which is currently processable by a single interpreter, if you like. I mean, of course, you could do all those kind of things in the background and pass stuff off to MetaPost to get it back and forth. But again, I think that would go beyond what you're trying to reach. And then if the concepts do not quite fit together, then you're not better off. So I think it is better to keep with a single syntax, whatever that syntax is going to be, in the tech world or in an interpreter word of that kind, and just solve those kind of questions up to the point of positioning text and ornaments, maybe. Anyone else? All right.